In the previous episode,
when you comb over some studies, you might come across several studies that show that we can increase our bifidobacterium by eating more fiber. But what they have not been able to find is that eating more fiber produces more butyrate specifically in the gut. And I believe that this is because we really need, because separate studies have shown that we need those colorful plant chemicals to actually produce the butyrates.
welcome to Reinvent Healthcare, a podcast for health and wellness practitioners passionately committed to transforming our current broken, disease-focused system. Your host, Dr. Rita Marie Los-Calzo, is devoted to helping you get results with complex health challenges like autoimmune, hormonal imbalances, and chronic health challenges caused by nutritional and lifestyle-induced imbalances. Here's your host, Dr. Rita Marie.
Welcome back to Reinvent Healthcare, the podcast for health and wellness practitioners who are passionate about making a difference. Today's episode, we're going to explore functional food for bone health. In order to be healthy and strong, even well into our later years, bones need the right nourishment. And most of the clients we see who are over 50 already have bones that are becoming weak and frail. In fact, in the United States, it's estimated that 54% of postmenopausal women are osteopenic, and an additional 30% are already considered osteoporotic. By age 80, 27% of women are considered to have osteopenia, and 70% are osteoporotic. Those are scary and staggering statistics. So I invited Karen Osborne, a soon-to-be graduating student in the nutritional endocrinology program, to share her research and application on the topic of supporting healthy bones through food and yoga.
I've known Karen for probably 20 years, and she's an expert in bone health and the power of food and fitness to strengthen bones. She first got interested in bone health through her own personal experience, like supporting her mom, and then discovering that she had weak bones when a stress fracture in her foot took longer than expected to heal. And she started to explore, how do you support that? And she uses the amazing power of yoga and food. She's an amazing functional food chef. She's studied throughout so many different disciplines. She has studied Ayurvedic, she has studied macrobiotic, low fat, high carb, high fat, low carb, low glycemic, and her favorite, which is, she says, is a whole food plant-based with no oil, which I love that she does that. She makes the most delicious food. I have had the privilege of knowing Karen personally for so very long and having experienced her food. And I'm super excited to welcome her to talk about bone health. So Karen, welcome.
Well, thank you. Thanks for all that, the introduction, and for having me on here. I'm really excited to get people to understand. If people understand, what's actually going on, they're more likely to eat real food.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I talked about that in my first episode, or one of the first episodes of the functional food pieces. Like, we can say just eat real food, but there is some personalization that goes on. And I know that that's something that you profess, and you say it on your website, that you work with clients to personalize their nutrition plans, to consider individual health conditions and take the best from all these different theories to help people not just create these wonderful meals that support their bones and their body, but also that please their palate. And that's super, super important, because we're not going to get people to eat foods that, when they say it just tastes like I'm eating the lawn. I don't want to eat that, right?
Right.
Exactly.
You got to eat. You might as well enjoy it.
So let's talk about some of those foods that are super important for bone health, and some of, the balance and what we need to do from a food perspective to help our clients get strong, healthy bones. Because we know that osteoporosis is a serious problem, and it debilitates people, and it can be a cause of death in people in an older population. I've read statistics that say if you're over 65 and you have a hip fracture, you're likely to die within a year. I mean, there's high percentage of that because it's so hard to recover from that. So let's talk about what we can do to help people protect the bones, not just when they're 65 or 75, but early on.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not the hip fracture actually that kills people, but it's the change in lifestyle that occurs because of the hip fracture. Like, you're not getting movement. And I'll talk about that in a minute about, I do want to go over a little background so people can understand what we're doing with these foods.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, so like you have two types of bone cells. You have the osteoblasts, or the ones that build the bone, and then you have the osteoclasts, which are the ones that break it down. And people think, oh, osteoclast, we don't want those, right?
Right.
But that is important because those are, like if you have a little microfracture somewhere, those, I picture I think it's called an algae eater or something in an aquarium that just kind of adheres to the glass and then kind of cleans it up. Like you can see them moving slowly all around the glass, cleaning it up. Well, those osteoclasts actually secrete cytokines that like dissolve the bones where the little cracks are. And then they absorb the calcium, all the minerals that are in the bone there, and the protein, and they return it back into the bloodstream. So the osteoblasts, the cells that build the bone, can use that to lay down new bone there.
Awesome. So it sounds like we need a balance between these
Right.
two. Okay, good. So let's
Right.
keep going.
And the drugs like either inhibit the osteoclast, which so if you don't have that, you're just going to get a buildup of old, worn out bone that's going to be really easy to fracture. And other drugs like just force the osteoblast to do something unnatural that causes all kinds of problems. Like, I'm not going to go into all of it, but can cause heart problems and all kinds of things. So if you can do it naturally with food, why not?
Exactly.
Food and exercise. Right. So when you stress your bones, the protein matrix comes out of that, the cells, and attracts nutrients from your bloodstream. And those nutrients harden that matrix. So the major components of the bone are the calcium and phosphorus, but you need all those other matrix. You have the inner layer of your bones and then the outer layer. So the inner layer is what we're strengthening here with the food. And if you can imagine that inner layer of your bone like a ladder, like several ladders, just that, picture the bone in there. And I'm sure people have seen the osteoporosis bone pictures where they're the porous bone and there's a lot of space in between. There are a lot of holes in there.
Yeah.
And if you have mineralized inner layer bone, then it's stronger, like a ladder where the rungs are closer together is going to support more weight than if they're farther apart. Like if you had a ladder with a really far apart rungs and a heavy person stepped on it, the rung would probably break.
Yeah, it's a great
And if
analogy.
they're closer together, it's going to support more weight. So what we are doing is giving our body all these nutrients that protein matrix needs to attract with our food.
Awesome. I love that description because it's very visual. And I think that that's something we can explain to people. And it really, you can see it. Oh, right. So we're trying to get the rungs closer together. We want to have less space in between. It makes total sense. So thank you for that.
Sure. Yeah. So, as I said, calcium and phosphorus are the major components, but you really want to get the calcium from food. And it's been proven that dairy is not the best way to get your calcium. It's just not as bioavailable as, say, from greens. Like, or plant-based calcium is a lot easier to absorb. So if you're just taking a lot of supplements, calcium, the calcium can end up in the wrong places, like in your arteries, and that's not what we want.
Well, interesting you say that because they just keep raising the RDA, right? It used to be 800 milligrams a day, and then it went up to 1,000, and then 1,200. Now they're recommending 1,500 milligrams a day of calcium.
So if you're taking calcium, then they're going to recommend more because you need more because you don't absorb as much, if that makes any sense. If you're getting it, say, from collard greens or Chinese cabbage, you're going to absorb more of what you're taking in, so you don't really need to take in that high of an amount to get the same amount as you would. So
that makes total sense. Yeah.
Okay.
That makes total sense because there's a higher percentage. And when you concentrate and you give high doses of any nutrient, the absorption does go down naturally. That's just the way it is. You may absorb 20% of a super high dose and 80% of a lower dose, just because it's the body's safety, built-in safety mechanisms. So we look at that, and you talk about the calcium from foods, and you mentioned a few foods. A couple of things I do want to have you mention is the importance of vitamin K with the calcium. Do we have to eat K and calcium? Does the K talk about the K. Talk about calcium, vitamin K, and how that plays in.
Yeah. Well, okay, so vitamin K is abundant in greens, but that is K1, and your body can convert a little bit of that to K2. K2 is what you need to activate the protein that moves the calcium out of your arteries and veins into your bones and your teeth.
Okay.
And then I make natto, which is fermented soybeans, and that is the best vegan form or source of K2.
Yep.
And I just, decided I was going to like it. I was going to use it, whether I liked it or not.
Because it was so important.
Yeah. Like the places in Japan that eat that have less osteoporosis than places that don't. And actually, the places that drink the most dairy or eat the most dairy have more osteoporosis than people who don't eat dairy. So natto is like really, really good for the K2. But I've got a chart of all these different nutrients and what they do for your bones. And natto has just about all of them.
Oh, wow.
So it's
really, not just
really
K.
Good food for your bones.
So we have to learn to like it.
Yeah. You can do all kinds of things with it. I mean, I just put it on my salad and mix it in. Sometimes you don't even need dressing because it is a bit slimy. And if you put herbs and spices and, whatever you like, you don't even need a dressing. What would you put in your dressing besides oil and vinegar? You could even drizzle a little lemon or lime or apple cider vinegar on your salad. But you can just stir it up with the natto, and it tastes like beans in the salad. It doesn't taste like natto. It doesn't taste bad.
Okay.
And it makes its own dressing. Awesome. But I also make it into a dressing. I can blend it with apple cider vinegar, and then it becomes like the oil. So I'm not putting any oil in it, but it's a little fat. And then I put whatever herbs I feel like having, whatever what kind of dressing I would like that day. Just blend it all in. Italian is really good. Italian seasonings and garlic. But you could do anything. Just blend it and pour it on your salad.
So are there particular herbs that are going to support bone health that we can add to that?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot. Nettles and alfalfa are good. Oat straw. You can make a tea. Just take like half a cup of a mixture of nettles, horsetail, alfalfa, oat straw, any combination or any one, and just put hot water. Like I'll take a half a cup of that, put it in a strainer into a quart mason jar, and then fill it with water and leave it overnight, hot water. Mm-hmm. And then in the morning you have a whole jar of tea you can sip all day long. It just tastes like tea, but it's really bone supportive.
Bone supportive, yeah. Karen and I did a course years ago, probably about 12 years ago, and it was called Eating for Bone Health. And in there, Karen took some basic recipes and made them bone healthy. And I just keep remembering, and I tell people about this all the time, bones don't crack crackers was one of my favorite recipes, right? Because it had those nutrients, those herbs you just talked about, and blended in with some other nuts and seeds and things that are supportive, almonds, which are good in calcium. So let's talk about some of your favorites. I know you do your natto, and you do it regularly, right? You do it every day?
I do. I put it on a salad every day. Salad is one of the things. A very loaded salad with all kinds of red bell peppers. I put the natto on there, all kinds of greens. I love arugula, romaine. They all have different things. Chromium in the romaine. Just any real food, I'll dump in that bowl of salad, and it's so good. Like I'll eat that for breakfast. I don't feel nourished until I've had my salad. So usually that's what I'm doing for breakfast. Beets. You want the calcium, like the collard greens are good. I love collard wraps. Collards are a really good, one of the best sources of calcium. But you want the calcium and the phosphorus, but you also want all these other things like vitamin C, because everything has a function. Like the vitamin C helps activate and absorb the minerals for bone formation. And it's good for making collagen. So that's the red bell peppers. Vitamin D, you can put your mushrooms out in the sun with the gill side up and let it make some vitamin D.
Whoa, wait. That people need to really focus on that. So you can sunbathe your mushrooms to get them to produce more vitamin D. Tell us more. Any mushrooms, or are there particular ones that are better than others?
Not really. I think it's any mushrooms, but I just get the portobellas or the baby bellas.
Stuff that's available at the supermarket. Yeah, not you don't have to get maitakes or turkey tails or any of that stuff. Okay, cool. That's good to know. And because mushrooms have so many other health benefits and immune benefits, and we just talked about them related to liver health. So these are good things to know and to teach your clients how to activate their food and get all these nutrients without having to just add yet another supplement. And I'm not against people taking supplements, don't get me wrong, but people get tired of, okay, you need this, you need this, you need this, and now they have 27 bottles of supplements and they don't even have time to eat because they're taking supplements all day long, right? And if you could just divert some of that supplement taking time into actually making these really hearty meals.
And if you're getting it from food, there's less chance of you get one nutrient out of balance because you had too much of another nutrient. But like the vitamin A, it can be toxic if you take too much vitamin A, but if you're getting it from beta carotene, your body converts it to vitamin A as you need it.
Right.
So, and you need that for hydrochloric acid production, which you need for absorbing the calcium. It's just all related.
It's all related.
So if you could just throw something of every color, real food, whole food, in a bowl, you're going to get a whole bunch of nutrients that you need that are good for your bones and good for your liver and everything, like Isabel was talking about.
Right, exactly. So let's close with tying in the yoga and the sustained stretching, because I think that's fascinating, and I think it's an important piece that people incorporate with their bone-building nutrition.
Right, it is. So if you stress your bones, which we do in my yoga classes, and it's always gentle stressing, but it is stressing, stress your bones, that protein matrix comes out and starts attracting those minerals. Comes from the cells. And that process happens at about 8 seconds after you've been holding or stressing the bone for 8 seconds. And it continues attracting the minerals up to 72 seconds. So in my classes, I work with a lot of people with osteoporosis, and they're very safe. We don't stand on our heads or stand on our shoulders. We work on posture and balance, because, if you fall, whether you have osteoporosis or not, that's how a lot of fractures happen. Right. So working on balance prevents falls, which prevents fractures. And so we hold the poses, we stress the bones, hold the poses, let that process happen, And also it works on muscle, like building muscle. And then your muscles stress your bones without you doing anything or thinking about it, just going about your day. You're strengthening your bones if you've built muscle. I talk about the twist. That's like one of the only ways to build bone quality in your spine, as long as you have a straight spine. You don't want to be rounding forward ever. But twists are really good, and we do those very slowly and very gently and just hold.
So twisting the spine, so to speak. So you're standing, like stay looking forward, and then you're twisting so the spine to the right or left. Is that what you're talking? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And there's a bunch of different twists that we do, but they're also stressing it's really strategic. Like all the moves, they're slow and gentle, but you're activating all your muscles all the time, and you're like stressing the bones. So stressing different bones. We can do a twist to twist the spine, but also put stress on your arms and your legs at the same time. So
Awesome.
It just works.
And this is cool because Karen does these classes. She does them in a studio locally, but she also does them online. So you can send your clients that you're concerned about, somebody who's had a hip fracture, somebody who's concerned about osteoporosis or has osteopenia and doesn't want it to progress to osteoporosis. These are amazing classes and in combination. So when you go to my food
fitness and fun.
myfoodfitnessandfun.com. You can find out more about these classes, but also the recipes. And I think you used to, anyway, have a little booklet on how to make natto and what to do with it.
I do, yeah.
Okay, so check that out. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I have a mat class on right now on Tuesday and Thursday mornings. There's some interest in having Tuesday and Thursday evenings too. And I do a chair class on Thursday afternoons. So even though it's in a chair, they get a workout.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're very strategic, like you said. So the one thing I've always been impressed with, you're very strategic about your foods and how you put your dishes together. You don't just slop ingredients together. You have this thought process in mind of how to, work the body functionally, right? And improve the body function. And so I would check out her website for all her great recipe guides and send your clients there if you're not somebody that likes to create recipes, which I know a lot of practitioners, they just don't have the time or the experience, but Karen's a great resource for getting those things. So do you have one last thing, like if you're trying to help, people or the practitioners who are listening with their clients and things that they can recommend to their clients for healthy bones?
Yeah, they can go to my website and get the chart. There's a chart with all the nutrients that are and what they do for your bones, and then some foods that contain those nutrients. And like you just look at that, and eventually you'll look at your food and say, oh, that's good for this and that's good for that. But
Awesome.
Advice, just move and have some fun and eat real food.
Yay! That's wonderful. I love it. That's exactly my advice too. And I would say check out the website because that chart is invaluable. And then you can download that chart and you can really keep it by you when you're supporting people, when you're looking at your own diet, when you're looking at your family members and all that. So thank you, Karen, so much for all the great work you do and for inspiring me. And I think you're overdue for dropping by and making me food. No, it's been a long time.
I know.
It's been too long. It's been too long. All right. You take care. And thank you so very much for being here.
All right. Thank you, Rita Marie.
Thanks for joining me for this episode of Reinvent Healthcare. I invite you to take action to support your clients using food to support optimally healthy bones. This is especially important for your clients over 50, but it's super important at any age. Why not help them build strong bones early on? Here are my key takeaways and a few action steps for you to implement with your patients. As for all body parts, it's super important to always address the foundational principles of overall good health. Especially for bone health, regular movement is critical, and exposure to sunshine for vitamin D is super important. Karen talked about the nutrients required to support healthy bone matrix and some of the foods that she teaches her clients to use to supply these. I suggest you listen again while taking notes and start to recommend vitamin K2 sources like natto and herbs like nettles, horsetail, alfalfa, and oat straw. Salads with a variety of vegetables is how Karen starts her day to keep her bones healthy and strong and to support everything else in her body. She also talked about the importance of exercise and in particular, how holding certain stretches for 30 seconds or longer supplies the stress on the bones that they need to stimulate the breakdown and then subsequent growth. It's good stuff. Be sure to download Karen's chart for bone health. The link is in the show notes. And remember to download the Functional Food Guide to access the charts we've been discussing in the Functional Food Facts episodes. Go to www.reinventhealthcare.com/food. The more you master the art of using functional food principles to balance hormones and body functions, including bones, the greater your success with clients. This will lead to a thriving and fulfilling practice where you feel great at the end of the day because you're changing lives for the better. Until next time, shine on.
Thank you for listening to the Reinvent Healthcare podcast. Join the movement of practitioners that are guiding people to actually get well rather than covering up their symptoms. Connect with us at reinventhealthcare.com to access resources and tools that will empower you to create a thriving health practice.